welcome to the Band Trip 2020 Spring Break meeting. My name is Jake Carpula. I'm the band director at the high school. For those of you that do not know me, most of you do know me. I know there are some 8th grade families here tonight as well. So I'm going to just dig right in. I'm hoping that this meeting doesn't go as long as the last meeting. This is the real deal meeting. This is getting us ready for students to commit to the trip, along with getting situated to make payments as well. So it is the Spring Break Trip 2019-2020. It consists of Puerto Rico and a 7-night cruise from Puerto Rico to the Eastern Caribbean. Before I dig into a lot of the information, I do want to let you know that if you visit that website, tinygirl.com/PRDEC meeting, you'll be able to view some the last meeting. And I'm not going to go over all the information I went over on the last meeting, but some questions could be answered if you have them. For instance, why the cruise out of Puerto Rico? Why not a shorter cruise out of the lower 48 states? Another question is, why is it the right time to take a cruise out of Puerto Rico in regards to the tourism industry and price? And then lastly, from the last meeting, I presented detailed sample itinerary, including ship entertainment and excursion options. If you don't need to write that down, it's on the very back page of the basic information packet. So if you're wondering those three things, as well as some additional information, I encourage you to watch the video from the last meeting. So I'm not going to get as detailed into the itinerary tonight. I briefly want to communicate my philosophy with music trips. My philosophy is to offer students an exciting, unique, fun, yet educational experience that most students would not have the opportunity to experience through other courses or general life experiences. And I feel the Puerto Rico trip, along with the cruise, really fits within this philosophy. Now, why did we pick this trip in comparison to others? First of all, both parents and students were given an opportunity to offer me feedback on a couple of different options. The first question was, if we go to Orlando with a flight, would the student attend the trip? And the student response, 19.9% were very likely. I can't remember exactly what that was, about 4%. I think we're 100%. So 100% are very likely. For students, we're 23.3%. 100% are very likely. For the parent answering for the student was 43.8%. And you can see 28.3% were maybes, 35.6% of the students were maybes here. So here's the student, very likely, or 100%. Here's the parent answering for the student, very likely, or 100%. The same question, Orlando by bus, and 100 for the student, 100% or very likely was 16.4%. For the parent, 100% or very likely, answering for the student was 43.8%. Then we get to the data, the same question regarding the Puerto Rico cruise. For the students, 100% or very likely was 59%, and then 25.3% were maybe. So over 3/4 of students that answered the question were either fairly likely to go or in the maybe category. 59% said they were 100% or very likely to go. The parents, 100% are very likely to go. 61% were 100% or very likely to go, answering for the students, and then 15.6% in the maybe. So up to 3/4 of the students indicating that perhaps they could go on this trip. And then check all statements that are true. You're going to realize that these add up to over 100% because people could check more than one statement. But the crew, for the students, and that's the top one here, for the students, 83.2% said the cruise was their first choice. And then looking down to Orlando, by air, by bus, 14.7% liked all of them, 2.8% didn't like any, and then 5.6% indicated something else. For the parents, their response, 63.5% said the cruise was their first choice, 11.1% Orlando by air, 7.9% was Orlando by bus, 4.8% liked all of them, 4.8% didn't like any, and 17.6% indicated a different response or an additional response in some of their cases. So that's, it kind of made it fairly easy for me to choose the cruise over the Orlando trip. The general information. So the trip is going to take place tentatively March 14th through 22nd. The departure and the arrival date are not set in stone. That's based on airfare. It's likely going to be March 14th through the 22nd, but if we can save $300 or $400 by departing on March 13th, we'll consider that. If we can, save that much money by coming back a day later, we would consider that as well. So it's up in the air a little bit in terms of our arrival and departure date, but the cruise leaves on March 15th. So that is set in stone, and all the ports are set in stone. The trip's open to all students enrolled in band throughout the 2019-20 school year. The price is estimated at $1,400 to $1,650, and we should be able to keep it within that. The only variable really is the airfare at this point. We do expect to stay within that price range. So payment schedule. First payment's going to come up pretty quickly. We expect a payment on March 5th of $200. And what that does is it allows us to reserve the airfare right when it goes, if we can get a good deal on airfare, it allows us to reserve that right away, and it allows us to reserve the cruise right away. Airfare goes on sale, I think it's 330 days ahead of time. So we've got that money ready to go. Our travel agent is going to keep an eye on airfare, and once she sees a good price, we're going to lock in the airfare. Various forms will be due as well throughout these due dates, but I do want to point out that yes, we have a payment of $200 due in a couple weeks, and then we're giving you some time to financially prepare, in which the second payment is not due until September 17th. And then we do expect all the payments for the trip are going to be due by December 10th. Then after that, you can make the choice of whether you want to do some excursions or not, some pre-booked excursions, and those aren't going to be due until January. So we have $200 due coming up in a couple of weeks, and then you have some time to financially prepare until September. And I just want to point out, almost all the information I'm presenting to you tonight is in the white packet labeled Menominee High School Band Trip. So if you just want to follow along, if you want to jot some more notes down, I'm more or less going in order of this document. So why do I think this is a great band trip? I talked about this a little bit already, but I think it's a great bang for your buck. Students are on location on the trip for 8 days. And once they're on the ship, everything is included, so there are minimal additional costs. Unlike other trips that students would go on, New York City, they pay for a lot of meals. Orlando, lots and lots of meals. And those trips are also very expensive as well. I know another group that's planning a trip to Orlando for 3 nights, and their trip is going to be $1,200 to $1,300 for 3 nights, by bus. So this is a great bang for your buck right now. The cruise ship is also your hotel. The cruise ship provides all of your entertainment, and all your meals are included as well. So 3 gourmet meals and pretty much anything else you want to eat throughout the entire day. I think all the performances that we have the opportunity to participate in are very good. There are a lot of great, unique experiences, and students aren't locked into one set itinerary every day. They've got some different options on things that they can participate in. There's a choice of activities as well, the interest of all students. They want to go to the climbing wall, or they want to go to the shows at night, mini golf, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. As I mentioned, all the meals are included. Food is available at all times. All the entertainment on the ship. And students don't spend hours and hours doing this. Our last trip last year, we bused all the way down to Florida, and it was a long time. 26 hours, I think, on the way there, 26 hours on the way back. That's a lot of time on a bus. New York City, you're going to spend probably 4 to 5 hours on a bus each day, or waiting in line for things. So, what is included on the trip? So the transportation is included. So the airport transfers from here to whatever airport we fly out of. The flights are included, and the 7-night cruise on the Freedom of the Seas. 1 night in a hotel in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and whatever activities we participate in, and that's still to be determined based on our flight. All your meals, once again, are included, and on the cruise ship, this includes 8 breakfasts, 7 lunches, 7 dinners, and unlimited snacks. I'm going to call it other meals, because basically you can eat as much as you want on that cruise ship, and food is available at all times. Now I'm going to go over the itinerary, and I just want to mention to you once again, if you want a detailed kind of hour-by-hour itinerary, then I would encourage you to watch the video from the meeting from December. I'm going to just highlight some stuff this time. So day 1 is a flight to Puerto Rico, and we're either going to go out of Minneapolis or Chicago. And the question might come up, why Chicago? Well, Chicago has a lot more direct flights to Puerto Rico, and at that time of year, it is smart to get on a direct flight. And there are also some better deals on airfare quite frequently out of Chicago as well. So we are going to consider both Chicago and Minneapolis for where we fly out of. Day 1 and day 2, we would arrive in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and activities at this time would be to be determined, as I mentioned. And we would have a performance sometime in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Day 2, we board the Freedom of the Seas cruise ship, and the cruise, I believe, leaves at about 8:30 p.m. A little bit about the cruise ship. These are actual pictures from the cruise ship. A nice pool area. It's got the surf simulator, a climbing wall that's about twice as big as the climbing wall that we had on our cruise ship last year. Has a full-size basketball court, which they also use for soccer, and I think hockey and volleyball. Currently has a mini golf course. This is the Royal Promenade, so this is actually between the rooms in the center of the ship. I think it's a 3-story dining room, an ice skating rink, and this is the theater which will attend all of the performances in, and it's also likely the theater that we will perform in as well on the ship. Now, one thing that I'm really excited about regarding this cruise is that they are going to be renovating the ship just months before our trip. I went on this exact cruise this summer, and this ship was beautiful. It was a blast. My wife and I went on this, and I kind of considered it a preview cruise, seeing if I liked the trip or not for students. And what's coming up is it's called the Royal Amplified renovations. So they're going to be adding water slides to the trip. They're adding some kind of trampoline park they call a sky pad, an escape room, laser tag, and they're renovating a bunch of things as well. So the ship is going to be even better than what it was when I was on the ship in July. There are 5 ports of call for this trip. So getting to the first one, which occurs on day 3 of our trip, which is St. Martin. And again, if you want details and history about St. Martin, watch the video. Or you can also look at another document, the Puerto Rico Eastern Caribbean Cruise Sample Itinerary. And this will give you kind of a little bit more detail in terms of excursions and things that you can do in St. Martin, as well as other trip activities. So once again, day 3 is St. Martin. Day 4 is a day at St. Kitts. Day 5 is Antigua. And for now, I'm going to say a performance at Port at Antigua. We are planning on performing at one of the ports. I don't know which one it will be yet. It could be Antigua, or it could be one of the other ports. Day 6, which is St. Lucia. Day 7, which is a stop at the Barbados. And day 8 is a day at sea. Also on day 8 would be our performance in our clinic in the Arcadia Theater. And then day 9, we disembark the ship and transport back to MHS. So a little bit about excursions. Students will have the opportunity to participate in pre-booked excursions. Students will also have the opportunity to do DIY excursions as well. All DIY excursions will be under the supervision of chaperones. All pre-booked excursions will also be under the supervision of chaperones. Obviously, the chaperones aren't going to lead the excursions, but they are going to be supervising our groups during the excursions. Some DIY excursions you can do for as little as $20 a day. And whether students choose to pre-book an excursion, they can have fun on the ship no matter what, on this trip. So I'm going to mention some common pre-booked excursions that you'll see throughout many of the different port stops. There are some boat and sailing tours, and those generally range from $40 to $60. There are island tours by vehicle, and those range anywhere from $30 to $100, but you can even get them cheaper than that. Zip lining, which ranges from $80 to $120. Snuba, which is kind of like scuba diving, except you don't have a tank on. Instead, you have a hose, an air hose that goes all the way up to the top of the water, and that's around $100. Go snorkeling. Pre-booked would be around $40 to $60, but we also will have many opportunities to do that on some of the beaches that we'll have access to for a lot cheaper than that. Many students participated in dolphin encounters on our last trip, and that will certainly be an option for this trip as well. Other unique and cultural excursions that might interest you as well. There are several rainforest adventures that participants can participate in. The Maho Beach airplane experience, which is on the island of St. Martin. You can watch the planes land over you. You can visit a Brimstone Hill Fort and the Great House Tour. There's a lot of slavery history going on throughout the Caribbean, and there are a lot of plantations that still exist, and that would be one of the plantation homes right there. And there are also a lot of defense forts throughout almost every island that we can visit. The Mount Villamuaga volcano hike. My friend's band did this last March, the week after ours. They did the volcano hike, many of them. Can visit the Wingfield Estate in Romney Manor, which is a sugar plantation in the state. Can tour the historic English harbor, visiting the old British Navy base of Nelson Stockyard and Shirley Heights, that's on Antigua. Harrison's Cave and Island Tour. I think that's in the Barbados, if I'm remembering correctly. The Open Cheap Waterfall Escapade and Swim. On the island of St. Lucia is a Titans cruise and snorkel. You can also do a mud bath with that. There's an Atlantis submarine expedition. Jolly Roger pirate cruise. In the Barbados, you can visit a house where George Washington lived for 2 months while visiting in 1751. It's actually a pretty easy excursion to do. And of course, you can visit many beaches. Many of them are within walking distance of the ship. So this is an actual beach. I think this is St. Martin, up the upper left-hand corner. And you can actually see the ship in the background here. I think this is Brown Beach, which is in the Barbados. This is also an easy walk from the ship. And students would be under the supervision of chaperones anytime they are off of the ship. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Can explore different port towns. We see Phillipsburg, we've got St. Louis, Independence Square, which is a hub of the slave trade in Massachusetts, Brimstone Hill Fort, which I mentioned already, sugar plantations, Fort James, Farley Hill National Park, plantation estates, St. Michael's Cathedral, which I believe is in Bridgetown, and Parliament Buildings. On the ship, every night there are Vegas and Broadway-like shows, and many of these shows are ones that I've seen when I was on the ship. So, acrobats, I can't remember their names offhand. There's an ice show. Almost all the shows have the Freedom of the Seas Orchestra, which is like a jazz ensemble. Around the ship, there are music performances and activities everywhere, and I'll highlight some of those. There's a country western dance party, poolside line dancing, salsa dance lessons. And I find that there are salsa dancing and salsa dance lessons almost every night. I think because it's all in Puerto Rico and something they really enjoy. Live piano, almost every night. Guitar melodies, almost every night. The poolside bands playing every day. Latin music, jazz jam session. 50s and 60s dance party. Karaoke, which happens several times a day. 70s tribute. So a lot of music performance opportunities for students to for students to go and enjoy. So now, actual student performance opportunities. There are going to be 3 performances that we're going to be doing. One's going to be in San Juan, as I mentioned. We get to perform on the cruise ship and have a clinic on the cruise ship as well. And we'll be able to perform at one of the ports. So what's not included in the cost? What's not included is some meals while we're in San Juan and en route, and really it won't be too many. Excursions while at port are not included in the cost that you see. Special beverages are not included. Tea, lemonade, water, all that stuff is included, but students will have an opportunity to upgrade into like a soda package or a special coffee package, and that is an extra price, an extra expense. And I don't know how we're going to approach travel insurance yet. That's something that I will determine in the fall. It may or may not be included in the price. What about passports? We are going to require passports for this trip. And the reason, on closed-loop cruises like this one, all the United States passports are not required, but we do require them on the students. And it's because in the event that the student needs to be evacuated, whether it's a medical situation or another emergency situation, evacuating the student is very, very difficult without a passport. So we are requiring passports for students. You can look in your handout to look at a little bit more information on how to apply for your passport. I do encourage you to wait until September, until after our second payment in December though, to apply for your passport. New this year, we are going to require an original birth certificate as well. And reason being, it's a good backup in case a student loses a passport. We had some close calls last time, and on the way down there, a student almost lost her passport, and if that would have happened, she would not have been able to board the ship. So we're going to require an original version of the birth certificate along with a second form of ID. And that second form of ID can be a driver's license or a school ID. So that's just, it's a backup plan, really is what it is. Some information regarding supervision and safety. I've taken bands on several trips. I've also attended several trips as a student when I was in high school. And after talking to many directors and after leading several trips, whether it's Orlando, Chicago, Indianapolis, Minneapolis, New York, I have felt the most safe on the cruise, by far, comparing all the trips that we've gone on. And I do want to just talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we have set up for this trip. So me, along with any other potential STMA staff members on the trip, will have a working phone on us at all times. Students may choose to bring their phones. We're not going to make that required. They may choose to bring their phones, and they may purchase an internet plan if they choose. So that'll be up to the students. If you want to be able to make a phone call, whether it's on your phone or by purchasing an internet plan and doing some kind of internet plan, that is up to students and families if they want to discuss how to do that. Now, addressing emergency situations. If we're on the ship and an emergency situation occurs, so this is the first, the top emergency situation one. Students should contact a Royal Caribbean staff member or security guard, and they are everywhere. You should be able to contact one within 10 or 15 seconds. They're everywhere. And if it's an emergency situation, they'll figure out how to get a hold of me, whether it's calling me or calling another STMA staff member through a ship phone or through another student's cell phone. If it's of a very, very high emergency, they can always page us as well. In a non-emergency situation, the student can wait until a check-in time, which are going to take place if we're on the ship. Chaperones are going to be available throughout the ship, so they can find chaperones. Or they can use the ship's phone to call Mr. K or another chaperone. Just let them know the price for calling on the ship is very high. So in an emergency situation, that's definitely worth that. If it's a situation that can wait, perhaps you just want to wait to use your phone then. Well, at port or off the ship. So whenever the student is off the ship, they will be with a chaperone. Whether they book a DIY or whether they book a pre-booked excursion or whether they're going to participate in a DIY excursion, which simply could be walking to the beach. It could be some kind of island tour as well. Royal Caribbean does not allow the minors to leave the ship without being supervised by an adult. So I do want to talk a little bit about how departing the ship works. So when the student gets off the ship, they have what they call a CPAS card. And students should carry this along with them at all times. When they get off the ship, Royal Caribbean scans this card and the student's ID pops up on their screen. And they also verify whoever they are being supervised with. So if they get off the ship, they're with their chaperone and it verifies who they are. So no student is allowed to get off the ship by Royal Caribbean without their CPAS card and without being under the supervision of a chaperone. Now arriving back to the ship, the student will also scan their CPAS card. Their identification pops up on the screen. And also all passengers go through is kind of like an airline luggage check. So they go through the security screening, their luggage is scanned as well. Families communicating with students. So if an emergency situation was happening at home, in the event of an emergency, they could call me. There's also a system set up through Royal Caribbean. You can call 1-888-724-SHIP. Prices are very high for that, something like $8 a minute or so. I do need to mention 18-year-old students. We doubled a little bit of this last time. 18-year-old students will have a few limitations, and it mainly comes down to attending kids' activities and going into kids' clubs. So that's something that 18-year-old students need to be aware of. Travel insurance. As I mentioned, I haven't figured out exactly how we're going to deal with travel insurance yet. This is something that I will communicate to you in the fall. Basically, travel insurance could cover us in the event that there is a snowstorm, which affects our flight. Also, if luggage is lost, travel insurance can reimburse you for that. And medical as well. If a significant medical event occurred, travel insurance will reimburse you for that. Student behavior prior to the trip. And I do need to go on record saying, reading this to you, and it's also in front of you as well, because I feel this is very important. Students are expected to be in good standing in terms of behavior throughout the remainder of the 2018-19 school year and the entire 2019-20 school year leading up to the spring break trip. Take note of all of the following. Any student violating substance abuse policies, including drugs, alcohol, medications, etc., in or out of school will forfeit his or her opportunity to attend the trip without refund. Students with other behavior violations may also forfeit their participation. This includes, but is not limited to, documented discipline referrals, disrespect to school staff, including Mr. Markula, other teachers, coaches, support staff, disrespect and bullying of students, physical aggression towards anyone, weapons violations, and documented truancy issues in school, which includes tardies and absences. Students found violating school rules throughout the 2018-19 and 19-20 school year will have to meet with Mr. Karkula and a principal in order to discuss his or her participation on the trip. Mr. Karkula, the principal, and the travel agent have the right to remove a student from the trip based on violation of school rules and expectations without refund. Student behavior during the trip. Students attending the Puerto Rico cruise represent the music department, school, and community of the Menominee. It is important that all students act in a manner that positively reflects our school and community. All school rules will apply while on the trip. Take note of the following. Any infractions of school rules will result in the student being disciplined according to the school's handbook. A conference with parents and principal may be necessary. Major infractions including possession/use of alcohol, tobacco, drugs, stealing, inappropriate relations with other members, sexual harassment, fighting, vandalism, disrespect, etc. may result in the student being sent home at the parent's expense. A curfew and bed check will be strictly enforced. In the event that we have to deal with a major behavior infraction, the principal and the parent will be contacted. It is then the parent's responsibility to pay for and arrange transportation for the student to return home. Depending on the situation, behavior infractions may need to be communicated to the ship's security and the captain of the ship. For the safety and well-being of all guests aboard the ship, Royal Caribbean has strict policies and systems in place for addressing misconduct of cruise ship passengers. Students will be held responsible for their actions and their choices regarding behavior on this trip. Students and parents will sign 2 behavior contracts in order to attend the trip. One is for the school, the other is for the travel agent. Any questions regarding behavior prior to the trip and during the trip? Sorry to bore you with that, but I do think it's absolutely necessary that I am on record stating that. Chaperones. Chaperones, parents are welcome to attend the trip. Parents do need to be a legal guardian of the students attending the trip. The ratio that we're looking for is about one chaperone per 10 students. I really don't think that's a problem with how many people have expressed interest in going on the trip as well. I do need to mention that the cost will be roughly $150 to $250 higher if you want a double room, and it'll be approximately $900 to $1,000 higher in the student price if you want your own room. So that is how much chaperone prices are. Character expectations for the parents while attending the trip will be identical to the expectations that the school district has for me. And the big thing with that is that all parents on the trip must abstain from the use of alcohol, nicotine, and other controlled substances. If you are interested in attending the trip as a chaperone, this pink sheet is what I will need from you by March 5th, along with a $200 check. You also need to be aware of a contract that will be due next fall. It's on the back of the blue sheet that's entitled Chaperone Acknowledgement of Responsibility. If you're interested in being a chaperone as well, it does help me significantly if you sign up with another adult. In other words, let me know who you want to room with. If you do want to attend but don't know who you want to room with, I can help you out with that as well. But signing up with a pair really helps me out when I'm figuring out the chaperone situation. If we do find out that you're not able to go on the trip after you submit that $200, because, for instance, you want it to be in a double room and I only have a single room for you and the price is too high, you will be refunded that $200. Chaperone responsibilities, basically just helping out. Chaperones are going to be able to have a lot of fun on this trip, but things that you need to be aware of is just assisting with bed checks, leading small groups, and supervising students during flight check-in and ship check-in, keeping an eye on students when we're on the buses, being a leader for pre-booked excursions if you choose to do a pre-booked excursion, leading DIY excursions if you choose to do a DIY excursion, be a contact person for people on the trip, sign off for students, that's kind of a big one, signing off for students as they register online with the cruise, help set up, move equipment for performances, and be available to assist Mr. Carcula and other staff members as we're setting up for performances and whatnot. Any chaperone questions? A few other items. Fundraising. We are going to continue to do the coupon book fundraiser next year. Students earn $14 per book they sell. So it's a great fundraiser. We're also going to do the mattress fundraiser, and students receive referrals when other people purchase a mattress. The mattress fundraiser is going to take place on October 19th next year. That's a Saturday. And students are encouraged to start saving now, perhaps get a summer job. So where do we go from here? So on March 5th, several forms are due, actually 2 of them for the students. And I've given you a lot of information. In order to make things easy, there's just a trip checklist here. I encourage you as you're kind of looking things over, look back to this, because this tells you what you need to do by March 5th. Basically, you need to turn in your Puerto Rico cruise parent and student contract. That's the one with 3 red exclamation points on it. So signed by a parent and a student. Please make sure you're writing your name and birthday very clearly at the top. This is how I will book your airline tickets and how I will register you for the cruise. Along with that, this green form, along with your check, in the amount of $200 made payable to the nominee high school band. So that's all that is due on March 5th. Later on next year, next fall, you're going to have to turn in the contract for the travel agent. I included this with you today so that you know what you're getting into in terms of what they expect of you as well. And once again, if you're interested in going as a chaperone, the pink form along with a $200 payment is due on March 5th as well. Several things will be due next fall. Contract for the travel agent, which I mentioned. All other payments will be due by December. The copy of your passport will be due along with an original birth certificate, and various other forms will be due as well throughout the months. I think that's all I have for you. Are there any questions? All right. Well, thank you for coming tonight. I'm going to open the doors up for the concert in a moment.